Hi, my name is Sandra Samuels, host of Boss Lady Live, where I come to you every Monday night with experts to discuss issues of crime and violence, love and relationships, health and wellness, various different topics that affect us right here in Jamaica. Please like and share and subscribe. Click on the notification bell to be advised when you're on. See you then.
More than half of us agree it takes too much time to understand the nutrition facts panel, but we can quickly understand that 80% of deaths in Jamaica are caused by non-communicable diseases. Without knowing, we consume excess foods high in sugar, fats, and sodium, which can lead to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. Especially now, we need warning labels on the front of our food packages to easily identify unhealthy foods. We support front of package warning labels. We're on the side of health. Join us. Give us octagonal, high in front of package warning labels. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome again to Boss Lady Live. It's that time again. It's 8 p.m. It's a Monday night where Boss Lady Live comes to you with a lot of information that you need and want. And, you know, for those of you who are joining for the first time, Boss Lady Live is in the business of introducing persons to information that, you know, they didn't even know that they didn't know. Boss Lady Live aims to educate, at times entertain, but most of all, we want to bring you information that you can get and apply it to your life. We want to see a better Jamaica. In this instance, a healthier Jamaica. And so I have brought a lot of topics on a lot of different health issues. Tonight, in particular, we are going to be talking about diabetes, one of the deadliest diseases right here in Jamaica. Now, I'm sure many persons didn't know that November is also Diabetes Awareness Month. Now, we hear, when we're growing up, we hear people talk about sugar. Mm-hmm. We don't know what sugar is. So tonight, joining me is Miss is it Miss or Mrs.?
Miss.
Miss Rosanna Pike, Health Education Officer with the Global Health Advocacy Project. I approached Heart Foundation, of which I'm a member, because yes, and I've been a member for several years because every year I get my tests done. I do suffer from high cholesterol and hypertension, so I go maybe quarterly sometimes to get my different checks done. So I approached Miss Williams, who really was very receptive to me, and I want to thank her publicly, Calicia Williams, for really introducing me to Rosanna. And now we're going to be having a conversation on diabetes tonight. Welcome to Boss Lady Live, Rosanna.
I thank you so much for the invitation, Sandra, and it's always a pleasure for us at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica to do this sort of activity to kind of bring the information to the people and in a way that they can understand and, as you say, apply to their daily life. So it is indeed a pleasure, and I look forward to a very fruitful discussion.
Wonderful. Welcome. We have, is it Rosebud Judy that's joining us tonight. Hi, Boss Lady. Yes, hi, good night. Thank you for joining. It's a very important subject. So let us know a little bit about Rosanna. why did you choose to be at the Heart Foundation? What interested you to go and work for the Heart Foundation?
All right. So as you know, as Miss Sandra introduced me a while ago, I'm the Health Education Officer for the Global Health Advocacy Project at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. And I think it was just all destiny because, I actually, got my role as the Health Education Officer right as I completed my studies because recently I had finished, my bachelor's in dietetics and nutrition at UTEC.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, January 2020, I saw that, okay, there's an opening for a health education officer and it's all advocacy work. So the capacity that I work in, it's with an advocacy group at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. And basically what we do is that we lobby for, public support and policymaker awareness about obesity and obesity related diseases and healthy food policies that can help to curb the trend of obesity, because we realize the statistics show that 1 in 2 Jamaicans are, overweight or obese. That's 54% of the population. So we really need to do something. So that's why, in our capacity at the Global Health Advocacy Project at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, we work to build public support and public awareness for the need for policies to help, curb the trend in these non-communicable diseases. And I saw the role for, the health education officer. I said, okay, apart from the qualifications, this would like something that will open avenues for me and also a way to hone my professionalism and expertise. And trust me, I must say I have been loving it so far. It's been teaching. It's a learning experience. I can say that for sure. Every day, it's a learning experience.
Yes. Well, it is also a very important role that you are playing. I want to thank you for your work and advocacy because I know sometimes it's a thankless job. So I want to just say thank you so much for, giving your time and attention to this very, very important role. So exactly what is diabetes?
All right. So diabetes, or sugar as Jamaicans, term it, is basically a condition or a disorder that causes, all right, let me just start from, a basic understanding. So people should know that every food that you eat provides energy for the body. And the main form of energy for the body, we call it glucose, all right? Or some people just say sugar. So diabetes now is coming from that. So basically it's a condition where glucose or the sugar from foods that you eat, the levels are excessively high. They're higher than normal in the blood. All right. And there are 2 types of diabetes, and it actually occurs when there's a problem with a hormone that we call insulin that actually helps to regulate the level of sugar that is in the blood. So you have diabetes type 1, where you have an organ called the pancreas, and what the pancreas does is that it actually sorry about that. Yeah,
No,
so that's fine. All right. So you have an organ that is called the pancreas, and the pancreas is what actually produces this insulin to help regulate the blood sugar levels. But guess what? In type 1, the pancreas isn't working as properly, right? So it can be due to some sort of burnout. So you find that it's not regulating insulin levels. So you find that your blood sugar levels are going to be high. But this type of diabetes is more common in children. Then there is a type 2 diabetes, which is more
because you can be born as a child diabetic.
That is correct. All right. And then there's a type 2 diabetes now, which is much more popular, much more common or predominant, as we would say. And this is where the pancreas is able to produce the hormone insulin to regulate the blood sugar. But guess what? Because of the pancreas burning out or worn out, then you find that over time the levels kind of fall. So it's not regulating as it should. So the body is resistant to the effects. All right. So that's basically, so you find that there's a fluctuation of the blood glucose in the bloodstream, and it cannot move properly to your cells because the body is going to need that glucose to actually push to the cells of the organs that it needs to function. So that's basically what it is. I
Okay.
mean, can say, the normal level for blood sugar levels, it's people probably might not, what you're talking about. It's 7 millimoles. But if you go to a doctor or a nutrition professional, any other medical professional who will do screening services, once they see a reading that is above the 7 millimoles per liter, then they will know that, hey, there is an issue and we need to act on it right away.
So, okay, diabetes, is it something that you are predisposed to, or is it that you eat? Well, I know that, so, as I said, some people are born with diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
and some people get diabetes due to obesity. Am I
Correct.
correct?
That is correct.
Can you get diabetes as an adult? Say you weren't born with it. Can you get diabetes as an adult without being obese?
Yes, you actually. So there are a lot of lifestyle factors and other risk factors that predispose you to diabetes. So apart from the regular genetics that you say, all right, if it runs in your bloodline, then there's a possibility that you might be predisposed to it, or you might just born with it. But there are other lifestyle factors. So you might be a child growing up healthy and normal, but then at some point in your adulthood, you do a screening or you do your vitals at the doctor, and hey, you're diagnosed as diabetic. All right, so there are a lot of you. Then that's when you'll have to sit down with the doctor and you'll see what point, what lifestyle behavior has actually caused me to become diabetic. So you'd have to look at your eating patterns and the types of food that you have been eating. So that's one. Alcohol drinking that predisposes you, and you have to look at the physical activity too. All right, so even if you're not obese or anything, but if you have a sedentary lifestyle, and then we have to accept the reality that now it's kind of hard. I mean, more and more people are trying to become health conscious, but then some people struggle with the time to say, all right, I work a 9 to 5, and then you have to, it's hard to come home to allot time, or even to wake up early before work to allot time to get some physical activity in, and then you look at other responsibilities that they might have to do. So that actually predisposes you, and that can be a factor. So the physical activity, the nutrition is a part of it. All right, you have to watch your stress levels as well. So there are a lot of risk factors. If you engage in risky behaviors, as I said before, the alcohol, drinking, then those are some of the factors that put you at risk of having diabetes.
What would cause someone to be born with diabetes? Is it something from the parent, or is it a gene? Is it a gene? Like, for example, like breast cancer, you have the BRCA gene, so the gene was passed down from one person to the next. With regards to diabetes, is it something genetic? If a child is born with it, is it something that you can pre-screen for when you're pregnant? What is the situation there?
All right. So you do have cases where pregnant mothers are, if they can actually have diabetes during pregnancy. However, as it relates to a child being born with diabetes, I mean, it's a once in a while occurrence, but it is possible. I mean, there is research out there to say, all right, it is indeed possible, and statistics show that it has happened before, and it is likely to happen later on, as where the genetics. So it could be a factor of genetics, or it just be it could be a factor that I've read one before where a child was born and mother doesn't have it, but the child was just born and diagnosed with a high blood sugar level, and then that's where they would have to work with specialists to ensure that that child's blood sugar level is regulated, and their body is sensitive to increase their body sensitivity to insulin. However, where the genetics is concerned, right, I mean, it does pass down. So if you are statistics show that if you have a relative above whether granddad, grandpa, or who was diabetic, then it is likely that it will pass down the blood the bloodline. However, it must be Jamaicans must know that, hey, even if it run in the family, you realize, all right, great grandma did have it, then grandma have it, then mommy have it, then I am at risk. But guess what? You can make changes to help curb that, right? So, I mean, I can say that my family, it does run in my family. So the hypertension or the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the high cholesterol, because, passing down from great grandparents to grandparents and, mommy. But guess what? I make health conscious decisions to say, here, what? I don't want to become a victim, or add to the statistics. So here, what? Let me try and make some lifestyle changes and dietary changes to ensure that, hey, I don't fall into this trap, because trust me, it can be a burden mentally, because you're looking at the stress factor, and then economically, because trust me, to treat and prevent these non-communicable diseases, the Ministry of Health can tell you, they publish it on their website. It is an economic burden, so we have to look at all of those.
Is it sometimes not a genetic problem, but a eating habit? What you cooking in the household, what you eat from generation to generation.
Yes.
Is it not more of a lifestyle challenge than a genetics challenge?
Yes, so I would say yes, it is more of a lifestyle, and that's why some of the most of these non-communicable diseases, were attributed to attribute them to lifestyle behaviors. So the things we do. So yes, if we know grandma have a recipe where she passed down for make something a certain type of way, we take it up. But guess what? We're just not looking at say, all right, she used too much sugar in this, or she used too much fat. Let me try cut it down. But no, because it tastes good, and we say, we family keep going on with it, then we feel like everything is okay, but we're not looking at the long-term effects or the consequences. So yes, it is a lifestyle. So I mean, it's not just about the sugar eating high sugar foods or drinking the sugary drinks alone. It's a whole lot. So you have to look at in nutrition we'll say carb counting or carb loading. So you have to look at the type of carbohydrates, right, and the type of sugars. Okay, you have your simple sugars, then you have to look at like your free sugars, and you have the added sugars, which are even more of concern, because a lot of people don't realize that most times we find ourselves nowadays eating these pre-packaged and convenience, processed foods, because they're so easy. We just say, all right, it's just easy. Pull the pack or pull the can, just throw it in this, and it's easy to go without, exactly, without even reading the label to say, all right, some realize this has 27 grams of added sugars, and the added sugars those are the sugars that are not naturally contained in the food product that is used to make that convenience food, right? And I mean, you realize that you're eating over the amount that you actually should be having every day, and that is a predisposing factor, risk factor for diabetes. And then if you eat all of that, now you're not getting enough physical activity, and you're doing other risky behaviors like you go out and you drink on a regular, alcohol and all of that. You have to remember and all of this with the diabetes, it predisposes you to other non-communicable disease. So that's where the obesity come in, because if the body can't use all of the glucose one time, it's going to break it down and store it as fat. All right, and you realize that it's linked to high blood pressure. So people with diabetes, especially type 2, they're twice more likely to have a heart attack and 1.5 more times likely to have a stroke than a person who is not diabetic. All right, as well as it can damage your blood vessels and the nerves that control your heart. You're more likely, as I said, the high blood pressure, that raises your risk for heart disease, because both of them can make your blood, the things that you have some things that make up your blood called platelets, it make them stickier, and more likely it's going to form what we call the blood clots. And if you get a blood clot, what's going to happen? The blood now can't flow properly through the vein, right? And that starves your heart and your other organs of the essential nutrients and oxygen that they need to function.
Oy. I know I know how that can be, because I have been on medication for hypertension and high cholesterol for about 22 years now. Yes.
Wow.
Since I
But
did, I'm a breast cancer
control.
survivor. So
Mhm.
since I did chemotherapy, everything in my body changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my mother was also on medication for high cholesterol and hypertension. She was borderline diabetic, but she really wasn't diabetic.
Okay.
So they had put her on medication to keep the diabetes at bay because there is a history in my
Oh,
family of
okay.
diabetes. I have never been diagnosed with diabetes. So the other day I went to the doctor. When I went down to I went to the doctor and realized that my sugar levels were going up. So I knew I had to make some
Do
drastic
something.
changes to keep it under wraps because I do not want to go on medication for diabetes.
Diabetes.
So yes, so I just adjusted. So last week when I went down, everything was under control. So I feel good about, the changes that I have made. I've increased my activity. I have, I'm eating much healthier. So I feel good about that. And one is diabetes reversible though?
All right, so yes, I mean there are cases. I mean throughout my years doing nutrition consultation and stuff, and I've worked with persons that I realized that they might be diagnosed as diabetic or pre-diabetic, and once they follow that right, they take the guidelines and adhere to them and follow a management schedule, then they find that hey, they're going back to normal. They don't have to. I mean, my most recent client, right? And I mean, it happens at the Heart Foundation as well. I'm pretty sure some of our medical staff can actually point it out, or other nutrition professionals. So yes, it is a case where you can do just follow some guidelines or make some changes, and you can get back to normal. I can say there's a recent case where I met a female, and she reached out because she has a habit of drinking sugar sweetened beverages, like literally as she wake up, that's what she draws for. And she's been doing it from she's young, and she's mid 50s, and she was diagnosed like about 3 years ago to be diabetic. And I started working with her and everything, and like late last year she called me and said, guess what, she's been trying to realize that it was going on, and sometimes it was just steady at one level. But late last year when she called, she said she's actually off her diabetic medication because she realized she's at a normal level now, and it has been going steady. And because of those changes that she made, and tried to adhere to the guidelines, working with her doctor, and the little plan that was tailored for her nutritional needs, then she was good. So it can happen, but it's just the discipline and the dedication of us, for us. We just have to instill that, to say, hey, I make up my mind, I want this to change. It can be done. It can be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Friends, please remember that the reason why we go live is that you can ask the burning questions that you need to ask. So if you want to ask questions, just put it in the chat and I will ask Miss Pike. Well, I will direct the questions to her and
Yes.
she will give you the answers.
And if I'm talking, I tend to, especially with something that I am driven about, I tend to
Yes.
ramble on. So, I mean, if you need me to clarify, just stop me and say,
Yes.
all right, you go too far, you're going too far. Just break that down for me. And
All right, no problem. No problem. So, what are some of the signs and symptoms of diabetes?
Right, sure. So some of the signs and symptoms, and I want Jamaicans to pay keen attention to these, because sometimes oftentimes, not just with diabetes, but with a lot of disorders in our body, like, the obvious signs are there, but because we're so busy and we're not tuning into our body and, its needs, or it's calling out for help. So some of the signs and symptoms of diabetes include frequent urination, especially at night. So you find that you have to be going to the bathroom frequently to, pass urine, especially at night. So that is one of the symptoms. There's also excessive thirst or frequent thirst. You find yourself always thirsty. And, an analogy that we learn to use, they say water follow salt or water follow sugar. And that's because, if there are high blood sugar levels, then it's going to kind of pull water from your body's cells, right? So that's one of the signs and symptoms. There's also the blurry vision, so it does affect your eyes, all right? So that's one of the other signs or symptoms. Then there's the weight. So some people might see a fluctuation in weight. 1 minute they lose the weight, then another minute they find that they're on the overweight or obese end of the weight spectrum. All right. Then what have I left out? There's a numbness or the tingling, especially in the fingers and the toes. They can't feel nothing, or sometimes it's like the nerves are tingling, right? Feel like something pricking or it's tickly. So that's another sign or symptom of diabetes. Fatigue as well, always feeling tired, like you're so exhausted you can't find the energy to really even get up out of bed to do, your usual daily duties. That is another sign or symptom. It's a wide list, and I'm even trying to figure if I really covered everything. I know the urine, the thirst, the hunger. All right. Blurry vision, numbness, tingling, fatigue. So there you have it. It's a very long list.
Yes. And once you notice these things, and friends, we know that when things not normal, we know right away, but sometimes we tend to, be hesitant because we don't really want to find out.
Exactly.
But these are some of the things that you have to attack immediately, because some of the effects now of diabetes can be loss of a foot. If it's a stick in the bottom of your foot, as you said, numbness. I have a client that doesn't drive because of the lack of sensation that he has in his foot bottom. So he's not allowed to drive, right? So people can lose limbs because the lack of circulation, right? What are some of the other things that can happen? Insulin. You can be put on insulin.
You have to be
right. If it's very, very, very bad. Once you go on insulin, Miss Pike, is it possible for that high level of diabetes to be reversed? Or once you're on insulin, that's it?
All right. So I cannot verify that once you are on insulin that it can be reversed. I mean, it might sound like it will take a miracle, because remember, it's all with the pancreas. So if the pancreas is burnt out and it's not regulating, then you know that it's really detrimental. That, hey, is there even a going back? Can it really, go back to functioning properly? Right. So for that, I cannot say I can verify that it is indeed reversible once you're on insulin. I mean, I've never met anyone that has been on insulin really, and they were told that, okay, you can come off. But I would love to meet someone, though, if that has ever happened to them and they share their testimony, because trust me, that would be a great one, a very miraculous testimony.
Venice is saying, is it that a diabetic person have to take medication to keep it down?
All right. So it's not that that would all depend on what your general practitioner, what your doctor actually says. So they would gauge it. So based on your blood glucose, so when they do your HbA1c test, or any blood sugar test that they find fit to do, once they do that and they analyze the levels, then they can determine if it is a must that you must, have to be on medication. And it is not a must. There are some, I've met, persons at clinics that say, all right, doctor say, it's not all that high, but they will try,
right.
They work with them, with certain lifestyle changes and see if it's, but if it's on the high end of the spectrum, then, I mean, it might be a must that you need to go on it. So it is not a must, but it all depends on what those levels are and what your doctor actually, thinks is best for you.
Right. Does it follow automatically that if you have diabetes, that the other lifestyle diseases, you're likely to have them? Does it follow automatically?
All right. So it's not a must that you might have all of them, but it is likely that you will have one or two, more of the other non-communicable or lifestyle diseases. So as I mentioned earlier, you find that people with diabetes, most time you check them, the blood pressure levels are high, because it's like, the two of them are going against, each other, because the diabetes actually triggers, high blood pressure levels. And as I said before, when both of those, so the stickiness of the blood platelets and, damaging those nerves. So the arteries that supply the heart with oxygenated blood, or blood with oxygen that it needs to function, then, you find that the heart is going to have to be pumping more or working harder, right? To, make the body function, or to, for it to actually function effectively. So you find that people with diabetes have high blood pressure. People with diabetes, they can have high cholesterol levels as well, because sometimes there is that buildup of fat, cholesterol, and other substances in the blood. All right, and then eventually, when that cholesterol and fat and other substances build up, it's going to lead to what we call a plaque formation. So it's like a plug of all of those forming the arteries and the vessels, and it can damage them and, disrupt the blood flow. So so it is. And then you find that, as I said, remember, one of the symptoms of diabetes is like the weight fluctuation. So sometimes you find that they're overweight or obese, and once you're overweight or obese, then basically you're predisposed to any and everything. The heart, because you're more at risk for heart attack, the stroke, any other cardiovascular heart disease. And I mean, just being overweight or obese alone, you're predisposed to basically almost all of those: the diabetes, the high blood pressure, and the heart diseases. So they kind of overlap or go hand in hand.
Some persons are of the notion that obesity means that you are like 300, 400 pounds. I have been to the doctor, and my BMI says I am obese. Looking at me,
You never.
I look like a normal size 12, but for my frame, for my height, for my age, when you do the combination, the size that you are supposed to be with that frame is not in keeping with the size that you are. So speak a little bit about how is obesity, I don't want to say calculated. Yeah, calculated. Is it calculated? How are you put in the frame of obesity?
Okay, so as you mentioned before, yes, most Jamaicans have a misconception that, when you're overweight or obese, is that okay? Is somebody
massive,
on the large side, or they're fluffy? But it's not so. All right, a person might just look normal, as normal as possible, or as you can think. And when you put them on a scale and you actually calculate the BMI, which stands for the body mass index, and as Ms. Samuels mentioned earlier, so the body mass index gives you an interpretation to say, all right, is your weight in proportion with your height, and especially at your age? And then it will vary as well for male than females, right? So if your BMI is the BMI, if it's calculated, and then that professional who calculates it for you, I mean, you can do it yourself. I will share the formula, and they say that, all right, they get a value of 18 to 24.9. Then they say, all right, you have a normal weight for your height. But once you get a figure of 25 to 29.9, then you know that you're in the overweight spectrum. But once you get to over 29.9, so 30 and above, that's obese. And there are 3 classes of obese. You have obese class 1, class 2, class 3, right? So anybody that looks normal, they might go on a scale and you calculate it. You check their height, check the weight, and you plug in those figures and you calculate, and they might be obese. I mean, you have cases where I've done that for men before, and you say, wow, we'd never know. But guess what? There are also other factors to look at. So sometimes you'll get a man, he looks perfectly normal, perfectly thin, but he has an overweight BMI. But that's when, we'd have to probably delve deep and say, all right, look at his muscle tone. You do your tricep skin fold measurement to see if it's more muscle than fat. So you probably have to calculate body fat percentage or muscle fat percentage. But for females, it's always kind of more evident. And, with that, because you notice that, all right, when you do the skin fold measurement, you realize that it's really more fat that you're able to grasp than muscle. And, we do other measurements to help us arrive at a conclusion. So you look at the waist to hip ratio, and that especially is important for women, right? So if you have a tape measure at home, women, try to practice to measure that, the amount of inches for your waist, amount of inches for your hip, and you divide it. So the waist divided by the hip. And, if we normally aim for 0.7. So once you're below that and below, you're in a good range. Once you go over, you know that there's a little, need for work on, getting a healthy weight or, getting the physique in shape. So the calculation for the body mass index or the BMI to help you know if you're overweight or obese, it's your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. But I like to use that's the metric calculation. For the standard, it's the weight in pounds divided by your height in inches squared, and you times that figure, multiply that figure by 703. All right, so it's weight in kilograms over your height in meters squared, or your weight in pounds divided by your height in inches squared, and you times that figure by 703, and what you get will give you your BMI. So you know that if it's 18 to 24.9, you know that you have a normal weight. If it's 25 to say 29.9, you're overweight, and once you're 30 and over, that's when you know that you are obese.
Yeah, because I remember I did my measurement, and based on what my BMI, because once you go online and you put in age, and it tells you what you're supposed to be. My maximum was supposed to be like 140 something, and I think that at 140 something I would look skinny, right? But I was in 168, so clearly I was obese. But at 168,
you did not
look
what you were imagining.
Right. Some people would say, no man, she look healthy. Because our view of what healthy look like is not skinny. Right?
That is true.
Sometimes our view of what healthy is supposed to look like is skewed.
Mm-hmm.
So really and truly, we need to look at the numbers
and not
the look. We need to know the numbers. We need to know our numbers. I think I heard it already. That once your waist passes 36, am I correct?
36 inches.
36 inches, you're opening up yourself for diabetes and hypertension. Is that true? Is that true, or is that a myth?
All right. So opening up your waist over 36 inches, I can actually say that's the first time hearing that. But I will have to do further research, but there might be some, truth to it, or verification or justification for that, because as I mentioned before, like the waist to hip ratio. So if a male or a female can say, all right, let me measure my waist, and if I see that the ratio is disproportionate, where you find that the waist is actually larger than your hip, then you know that, all right, abdominal obesity. And then that's when you medical or health professionals start to classify by your body shape as well, to say, all right, if you have gynoid obesity, which is the pear shape, or the android obesity, which is the apple shape. So most of the fat is, the fat deposits are stored up here, and you need to really watch that, because it can lead to open a can of worms that you really don't want to deal with at this point, especially now in the case of COVID, where you learn that a lot of these non-communicable diseases predispose you to contracting the coronavirus.
Right. I was going to that for you to just touch on the dangers of having um, COVID when you're diabetic, and I wanted to touch a little bit on what are some of the challenges, and also touch on vaccine. Is there any challenges taking the vaccine as a diabetic person?
Okay, all right. So in the context of COVID, so as we know, science is constant. Research is always been done, and we find that especially since the emergence of COVID-19, a lot of research has been done, especially with these non-communicable diseases or lifestyle diseases, and susceptibility, for COVID. So where a person is, you find that a person with the diabetes or the high blood pressure or high cholesterol, they are more susceptible to contracting the virus. And then we have to look at, all right, how this virus, the mechanism, of how it attacks the body. And then, you just have to say, listen, you already have a condition that is, detrimental to your health and your well-being and how your body is functioning. And then if this virus, this infectious agent gets inside, it's going to basically kind of throw off even more, because diabetes, you're already dealing with your body's sensitivity or resistance to insulin. So you have to and this to come in now, it's going to basically impair the rest of your body's functions, and you don't want to have to be dealing with both of those at the same time. All right. You asked, there was a second point before we get to the vaccination.
I was asking the dangers of
Danger.
having and what was the other thing I asked again?
Probably
Is there any dangers with taking the vaccine?
okay.
Where if you have diabetes already?
So with taking the vaccine, maybe one of our medical professionals will be best able to answer this. But from my knowledge and what I've been seeing, in the public health sphere, because we do work along with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and they've been one of our, committed partners. So kudos to the Minister of Health and his team for supporting us in our activities. All right. So based on research and, working along with the Ministry of Health and what they have been publishing, we have not seen anything where they say, all right, taking the COVID-19 vaccine is detrimental to your condition as a person living with diabetes, right? And if there was, I don't think they would actually be encouraging persons to take it, right?
Yes.
So, and if research shows that, listen, if you are a person living with diabetes and you are more susceptible and the effects of the virus may be more fatal to you, right? It can reduce your lifespan or put you in a position where you're hospitalized, severe hospitalization, then you need to take the vaccine, whatever is available to you to help protect you. So I don't think they, health researchers or scientists or medical professionals would be putting that to our people. And they know what's best. They've been there, and it's the information put before us, and it's something, as I said, science is constant, so they will always be testing, they will always be researching and, putting out the information. So we just have to work with what is available. From a human rights perspective too, we all make our own choices, we make our own decisions, but guess what? If you know better, you do better.
Yes, I agree. Now, some of the I don't want to say most persons, but a lot of persons believe that it's only drinking or eating sugar that you can develop diabetes from. What are some of the other foods that if you would intake excessively, you can open up yourself to diabetes?
All right. So before I jump into the nutritional management of diabetes, just want to touch on a myth that we normally hear. I've heard it so many times, and it's not just here, it's globally too, that you hear that, oh, people with diabetes can't eat sugar, or it's just sugar alone. We said it earlier, it's not really just your sugar alone. You have to watch everything, right? And especially if you look at the what they call the diabetic diet or diabetic meal plan, you'll see that it does not only focus on just the sugars and the carbohydrates. You have to touch every other, nutrient of concern. So you have to watch your salt intake and your fats, right? So people with diabetes need to eat a diet that is balanced, and it can include some sugar, but in moderation. And that would depend on, what stage you're at and what your doctor and nutrition, if you're working with a dietitian or a nutritionist, then they will see, if you can, what level or what amount of sugar your diet will allow based on your stage. All right. I mean, most people, they will have to go for a sugar-free diet. And if it's really severe, then they just have to work with that. So it's not just the sugar-sweetened beverages that are often said high in empty calories, because meaning they don't provide much nutrients or, nutritive value or benefits to you and your health. So it's not just that alone. So you have to, number one, we always recommend that you consult with a nutrition professional to work with you and tailor a meal plan to suit your needs, right? So they will based on your blood sugar levels and then other factors like your age, your gender, your current weight and all of that. Then they will look at those and tailor a meal plan for your needs, how much calories, how much sugar, how much fat, how much salt, protein you need to eat on a daily basis. All right. And we have some at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. So if persons are interested for nutrition consultations, you can come in. But I will talk about our services later on. So one, you need to eat adequate amounts of fresh fruits and vegetables. So
speaking of fruits, though, the level of intake of the fruits, and we have a big culture now where everybody's into smoothies. Can you just address that for me?
All right, sure. So we normally for persons living with diabetes, we always say it's preferable to have your fruits and vegetables in the whole form rather than in the juice form. So yes, a lot of people run to the smoothies and say, well, guess what? What is put into those smoothies and how much of what they put in, how much of it is put in there? Because guess what? At the same time, fruits and vegetables are okay, but there's a limit to it because fruits and vegetables have natural occurring sugars. So the fructose, the sucrose, all of those that you hear, they are types of sugars that are found in the fruits and vegetables. So when the mango season come around and some of us like to eat 5 mango one time, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot of people. I'm talking some people's bubble, right? Or your favorite food. We have to. So moderation is key. We normally say at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily. All right, so 5. All right. And I mean, if it's a case where your condition is so dire that you might have to limit it, because I mean, if you're eating the 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, remember that you're getting sugar from other foods that you're eating. So the yams, the bananas, the rice, and all of that, any other, the peas and beans, they do provide some amount of starch or sugars, right? So you have to watch that. Lean protein, so no food from animal with the skin or fat on it, so the chicken breast without the skin. And you have to watch a method of preparation as well. And we always encourage whole grains because they have what we call dietary fiber or roughage. So when you eat the orange, the pulp, the carrot, when you grate those little strings, the shreds, that's the fiber from it. So and whole grains, your whole grain stuff. So always encourage persons to hear what this is what you stay away from: the pre-packaged processed foods. So any food that has been altered from its natural state, right? It go through some preservation or some modification of its natural composition, right? You have to watch those because they're normally high in unhealthy fats. So those are your saturated fats and your trans fats, normally high in sodium or the salt, as we would say it, and normally high in the added sugars. So I'm going to pop bubbles again. Favorite chips that you normally pull for, when you're watching Netflix or, chilling or grab as a snack, or even as us as youth when we're studying. You have to be careful of those, your sweet treats, so your donuts, your cookies, all of those, your sugary cereals as well. We normally say go for your whole grain cereals. And you also have to, drink more water, less alcohol. And also there's also something we need to touch on, like learn to read your food labels, because sometimes, it's hard that, we just we buy what we know or what we're used to. But especially in managing your diabetes, that's something we say, read your food labels. And that's one of our policy priorities here at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, where you might see our ads that we're lobbying or advocating for the government to implement front of package labeling that makes it easier for persons, especially people living with these non-communicable diseases, to identify when a food is just a simple black octagon to say high in fat, high in sugar, high in salt. So it minimizes the time or the use of knowledge to calculate how much of these nutrients of concern
Right.
I need to be to watch for my serving, right? So you need to watch your intake of those, read your food labels. Remember, fresh fruits and vegetables in the whole form preferably. If it is that you're doing juices, so we always say less sugary sweetened beverages. So juices, no added sugars. You can have your coconut water in moderation. Water is always number one. For your, if you it's a need that you want to make your juices, use your fresh fruits and vegetable, no added sugar. Just try a little ginger, some cinnamon, lime or mint to help enhance the flavor, and you'll be good.
Benny's was saying, she was the person who had asked the question before
Mm-hmm.
about the medication to keep
The blood sugar.
the blood sugar down. And then she said, but what if you are diagnosed with type 2 and are unable to be on a strict diet? I don't know why she'd be unable, and I'm not sure if it's financial wise, or can you be a little bit more specific, Bernice? Is there a reasonable nutrition menu that one can have?
All right. So I guess
Well,
when
when
she
she said reasonable, I'm now assuming
to me,
cost wise.
cost
Yes.
wise. So, and when she says strict diet, as I say, restricted diet, meaning you can't afford to say, all right, cut out, say, some of the foods that I just mentioned. There are just simple ways. We just have to, as grandma would say, turn your hand, make fashion, and try to use up common knowledge or things that we see. So if it's a case where, all right, like a can of peas is easier for me and more cost, affordable for me to buy than to say, let me go to the market and buy a pound of peas. And when we understand, say, all right, it's kind of hard, and with the surging prices. So here what? There are just some ways that you just have to, as I said, the moderation is key. So you know that if you usually eat 5 packs of something or 5 cans for the week, here what? Let me just try cut down and split, say, buy 4. And guess what? I try to spread it throughout the week instead of eating the 1 can per day or the 1 pack per day. Try to cut it and spread it. Or if it's a must where, it's not you alone you're preparing for. So like the can of peas, as I was referring to earlier, so here what? Instead of, because it is going to be contained in some form of preservative or liquid, or, that will contain some added salt or, added sugar. So you just turn your hand, make fashion. So guess what? You can strain it, pour it in a drainer, rinse it, so you get rid of some of that, excess salt, sugar, or fat. And then you prepare it. All you do, that method of preparation, if it's normally, cooked with a lot of oil, lessen the oil or the type of oil that you use. All right. And you try to explore. That's why we normally encourage people, like, listen, try to open up your palate. It might take some adjusting, but try to mix and match different types of food. So the can of beans with something like cut up some carrots or some vegetables, fresh vegetables, to help enhance the flavor and to open your palate, and then to complement, then you'll be good to go.
She actually answered, and she said it's actually financial.
Financial. All right. So that's just.
Then there is, if you have, you don't need a big backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You just need a little 2 cup of pot.
And just
Grow
plant.
your own grow
What
your
you
own
grow.
fruit
Mm-hmm.
and vegetables and all those little condiments because
Yeah.
that's the way of the future.
Future,
You just,
exactly.
you just need a little square just to grow some
I
vegetables.
mean, even if you don't have the square pure concrete, guess what? Find an empty water bottle, or some container, an empty cup, and you just patch it up. You just get some soil from somewhere, and you find your seed, or you like scallion to reduce the cost of buying scallion by the pound. You just find a stock, and you
Right,
probably put it in that cup or the bottle, and you'll be find somewhere to drill some nails in the wall, and you hang up these bottles based on how you cut them. And trust me, that's your
right,
little garden, and nobody can tell you anything, and you'll be
right.
surprised. You know, you'll be surprised. So
We
yes,
have
that
to
is
grow what we're eating these days. And
a
then you are in control to say, well, it's organic because this is how you're growing it.
going.
You have the pesticides, no, nothing like that.
Right, exactly. So yes, and I mean, if persons like that's her Venice, if she wants access to information, we do have a wealth of information on our website www.heartfoundationja.org. We also have, if she's looking for some tips like for the whole backyard gardening, or how to properly portion her fruits and vegetable sizes, or that information on diabetes, sugar, all of that, salt, sodium, it doesn't matter. You can go on our website on the health education and advocacy tab, and there's some information there, so it's open to the public. So it's not like we're not charging you, it's there for free. And then sessions like this, which are especially now in COVID, we have to appreciate that people like Miss Sandra Samuels are taking the time to use this as a channel to, especially now we see that things are transitioning to the online medium. So you have to appreciate the information that is being
And the
provided.
information comes into your living room. There
Exactly.
one.
Your
If you
bedroom,
have once on your phone, you have the information.
right there. Exactly.
Yes.
So it's a
Where can they find Heart Foundation? Is the Heart Foundation only in Kingston?
Yes, so we are currently at 28 Beechwood Avenue, Kingston 5. So it's just off Halfway Tree Road and in close proximity to.
Just up the road from Observer.
Yes, exactly. Just up the road from Observer CBJ right there. So 28 Beechwood Avenue. So if you are looking for, any screening services, you can come in. And that's one of the things we always encourage, to know your numbers, especially with diabetes, know your ABC. So your blood sugar levels, your blood cholesterol, blood fat levels, your BMI, and what else? Your blood pressure. And we do offer screening services as well as others like your ECG tests. You can just walk in for that. We have echocardiogram. We also do mobile screening. I mean, there's a host of other screening services like we do body fat analysis, your cholesterol profile, hemoglobin, the 24-hour Holter monitor, and we also do training and certification. So if persons want to get, training CPR, pediatric life support, so we tailor it based on if you're a medical professional or non-medical. We do have certification and training available. It's as we said, certified, accredited by the American Heart Association. So you get your e-card to download and print, and anywhere in the world you are, if there's a critical situation, you're able to save a life. We do mobile screening as well. So groups of 10 or more, you can get a discount. So whether it's a community-based organization, a corporate entity, it does not matter. So we are open, our offices are open. Feel free to call us.
What are your opening hours?
All right, so Mondays to Thursdays, we are open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and on Fridays, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturdays, it's 8 a.m. to maybe about 1 or 2 p.m., but it all depends. So we're not open every Saturday, but you just, we keep the public abreast based on our social media platforms. So we are active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So you can just, check out our profiles, Heart Foundation JA or Heart Jamaica. And, we'll put out a schedule when we're open on a Saturday for you to come in and visit.
And let me just add to that. It's a very lovely location. They also have a pharmacy down there.
Yes, we do.
Right?
Biomedical lab as well.
If you become a member, they're not paying me. So let us just tell you, they're not paying me. I've been a member I go there, you can get your blood pressure tested free of cost, right? And your cholesterol, it's a nominal charge. It's not very
Exactly. I
expensive.
mean, it's just $1,000 if 65
Right.
and older, and if you're under 65, it's $1,500. But guess what? It's worth it because you reap the benefits. The unlimited free
You
blood
get
pressure checks,
discounts with your
discounts on your
card.
ECG, discount for blood sugar tests, and prescriptions are all 10% discount. And I also want to add that now that it's Diabetes Awareness Month, I mean, we're doing a host of activities in partnership with the Diabetes Association of Jamaica and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. So we do have diabetes clinic people. So if you or a loved one is living with diabetes, we have diabetes and hypertension clinics every Thursday and Friday. And it's come in, you can make an appointment, speak with one of our medical professionals or specialists, and they will work with you and guide you. All right. And in commemoration of Diabetes Awareness Month, some of the activities like we do regular social media posting to keep you abreast on information about diabetes. We work with the Ministry of Health.
That social media handle.
Okay, so for Twitter, it's Heart Jamaica. For Facebook and Instagram, it is Heart Foundation JA. And so you just follow us. We post on a regular basis. So not just for the services, but we do give like healthy lifestyle tips. And Diabetes Awareness Month, we have a host. So we'll have videos coming out with tips for diabetes management, the statistics around diabetes, especially in Jamaica. We have a vaccination blitz coming up on the 23rd, where the Ministry of Health and Wellness will be on site, offering the Johnson & Johnson AstraZeneca vaccines to the public, first and second dose. We also work with so the NHF will be having their seminars, also the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and they have on their website, I don't remember the handle for that page specifically, for information to the public about diabetes and diabetes awareness. And follow our campaign as well. You played the video at the opening on front
Yes,
of
and I will play it again before we
Yes, so that's important in diabetes management as well. As we say, people don't really have the time to read and understand food labels, so we want our governments, our local policymakers to equip us with the tools needed to make more healthy and informed choices for the improvement of our health.
Yes. We're not wrapping up, Dolores. I saw your question. I was going to get to it, my love. Dolores is asking, what is the normal level point for diabetes?
So diabetes, once your blood sugar level is less than 7 millimoles per liter, then you are normal. So once it's 7 or over, then you know that there is, an issue, and you need to work with your medical professional or your nutritionist to help, curb that.
We have some of us have a very bad habit. Unless we feel sick, we don't go doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend persons just going and have to know your numbers, just to get to know your numbers once every 6 months, once every 3 months? What would you recommend?
If it were up to me, I would say every month try to know your numbers, but guess what? I mean, most of us, based on the time, availability, and cost. I mean, if at least say probably at least 3 times per year if you can, or 4 times, so every quarter you try to go in, you get an appointment, or walk in and try to know your numbers. And there are 4 health numbers that are critical that you should know. So your blood sugar, blood pressure, blood lipids or your blood cholesterol, and your BMI, right? Because all of those go hand in hand to determine your health status and what needs to be, improved, and what what is good. So those 4 health numbers. So yes, we always encourage persons at the Heart Foundation to know your numbers. So your 4 health numbers are critical. So you get screened for them: your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your blood lipids, and your BMI.
You said there is someone down at the Heart Foundation that can also speak to nutrition?
Nutrition, yes. So we do have nutritionists. We have about 3 nutritionists on site, so they are open. I mean, you can come in, but based on appointment. So you can come in, send an email or call our offices and, say, I want to make an appointment for a nutrition consultation. And when you come in, that nutritionist will work with you. They will do their, preliminary screening, like their BMI. They will take your, probably like a 24-hour food recall or, a food diary just to see what your eating patterns have been like. And then they will use that as well. Even if they do other, they have the doctors do other, vital checks, then they use that information to help tailor, meal plans to suit your needs. So even if it's that you're just looking to lose some weight, you're just looking to like, maintain a healthy eating path, I mean, they're there, they're ready to and willing to assist.
But what you said, the repeat health.
The 4 health numbers.
She said, repeat health number, please.
Okay.
When you say health number,
the know your number. So the 4 health numbers, you should know your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your blood lipids, or people just normally say your blood cholesterol, and your BMI. So those are the 4 health numbers.
We spoke on what not to eat. Are there any foods that help in where diabetes is concerned? Is there any particular food that does us very well? Because some things, give us a boost. Some things, yeah. Is there anything you can say, helps in diabetes per se, or just a normal healthy diet?
So as I mentioned earlier, so your fruits and vegetables are important, but you just watch the portion sizes or the serving sizes, right? And how much that you eat, because remember they have, naturally occurring sugars in them. And then you want to, as I said, your lean proteins, those help. The whole grains, especially the fiber, those help. And especially that the fibrous foods or whole grain foods, they help you to feel fuller for longer. Because remember, one of the symptoms of diabetes is that you find that you always hungry, the excessive hunger. So once you eat the whole grains or foods high in fiber, so some of your grown provisions like your sweet potatoes, your vegetables like your carrots, your fruits like your apples and your oranges and your bananas, they have fiber, and what they do, they help you to feel fuller for longer, so they prevent you from overeating, right? And that can in turn help to keep your blood sugar level at a steady pace. And then on a more technical level, let me try to break it for you. So then you have to look out for some foods that don't raise what we call the glycemic index. So basically it's like that level of your blood sugar, how fast they actually let the make the level of blood sugar rise. So you have to watch out for foods like those. So that's why I say like some of the prepackaged foods, so like the sweet treats like your cookies, your donuts, foods like those you have to watch, because once you eat them, and the sugar sweetened beverages, once you eat them, they just cause an instant spike in the blood sugar levels. And then sometimes you find that when they do that just instant spike, and then you find that your body just goes low afterwards. And I mean, it's also evident, like children, once you give them something sweet, and like you find out, hey, energy level is up there and everything, because it spikes the blood sugar level.
Right.
You find that they're just so lethargic afterwards, they're not focusing, they just want to sleep. So that's what happens with those foods. So you look at, so it all has to do with the nutrient profile, ripeness. So sometimes I say the riper the fruit, so it will have more sugars. So you just have to watch that it might spike the blood sugar level faster, and the amount of processing. So as I said before, the processed prepackaged foods that are ready and convenient. So you watch those.
Okay, for example, they said a normal, we should be drinking like 8 glasses of water per day.
Per day.
Someone who is diabetic, should they be drinking more water? Is there any?
The person with diabetic naturally would actually drink more, seeing that the blood sugar levels are off balance, so they're higher than normal. So you find that they will be excessively thirsty, so they're drinking. However, if it's that they're following guidelines and they're taking their medication as prescribed, then they might get it at a level where it is controlled and they find that, all right, I can manage to drink the 8 glasses of water per day, right? Or hopefully not less, but you find that they're drinking close to a person who is not living with diabetes. So it all depends on how well that their blood sugar level is regulated.
I could not come off this program without addressing the effects of diabetes on men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the big concern usually is, if affect anything that affects a man's sex drive. I have a company called Totally Male,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have to talk to the men, about taking care of their health. Now, what are some of the side effects in terms of diabetes on men and on women? I know the side effects may be different, but with men in particular, does it affect their sex drive
All right, so with men,
or abilities?
research has shown that yes, you can have impaired sexual functions, right? And then remember that diabetes predisposes you, it's linked to other conditions like high blood pressure and high blood pressure in itself. So if you're diabetic and then you find that your blood pressure levels are not normal as well, then you're even more at risk of, having impaired, sexual function or, sex drive and one of the effects of high blood pressure is erectile dysfunction. So you want to save yourself from all of that. So men, take heed, stay on the right path, eat what you're supposed to eat, try to keep physically active. If it's even to just get up and stretch. Less smoke, no smoking. If you're not a smoker, don't ever think, to start. Now we know that COVID is stressing and, a lot of burdens and, especially now for men.
It's better to take it out walking or something.
Yes, try find something else to do. If you try dancing, some other coping mechanism, and not turn to that, because guess what? When you find that you pick up those other risky behaviors, it even affects you more. So if you're already, can imagine a man who's living with diabetes, he's told by the doctor that, hey, you're having erectile dysfunction, it's affecting your sex life, and then him starts stressing out and he starts to turn to risky behaviors as coping mechanism, drinking and smoking. It's only going to make it worse. It's not going to make it any better. So you
Absolutely.
have to, take precautionary measures to prevent it from getting to that stage.
Absolutely. Roydell, you came in late. We did address the fact that it also affects your eyesight.
Mm-hmm, yeah, so we did touch on the eyesight and blurred vision. So yes.
Blurred vision. Yes, definitely. Is there anything else before we wrap that you would like to get out in terms of information that I have not asked or we have not touched on where diabetes is concerned?
We basically covered everything. The only thing I didn't really give you is that the statistics of the numbers, right? But I just want to read, to say, listen, diabetes, the prevalence of 1 in 8 person has diabetes. And this is coming from the Jamaica Health and Lifestyle Survey published by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And if this is coming from 2016, 2017, so you can imagine when they do that, the next survey, what the numbers will be like. Because if it's 1 in 8 persons at that time and 1 in 3 persons had hypertension, you can imagine now. And you find that the rate showed that diabetes was prevalent in at 12% in Jamaicans 15 and older, and it was most prevalent in persons 75 and older. It was about 42% of the population. But as I said before, if they should do an update of that health and lifestyle survey, can you imagine how the figures are now? And then know when we
realize their lifestyle setting, people working from home, people not exercising as they
as
used
much,
to,
and transitioning our diets where we're moving from different foods and depression, comfort food, all of those, right? And now that as I
Yeah.
said, working from home, online schooling, so we're eating what is readily available, and we're just sitting right there, and we're not working it off. So we have to look at all of that, and that is what it's going to just add to the statistics. And sickness and diseases, they have no preference, right? I realize that nowadays, and I can tell you, like, you find that a lot of persons, you find that a lot of young persons are being affected nowadays, right? So a lot of young persons are being diagnosed with the diabetes, the high blood pressure, and the high cholesterol. So I mean, it has no preference. So now when you find that, all right, it was mostly affecting older persons back then. No, you find that a lot of the younger generations, they are being diagnosed, and what? It's because of these challenges, and because we adopt a lot of outside cultures, and the transition in our diets and lifestyle. It's predisposing us to a whole lot of risk factors.
Yeah. Because even in the culture, I mean, in the songs, I mean, we talk about, talk about tickers, tickers in,
Yeah,
we're not really thinking about it from a health perspective.
perspective.
We're looking at it as a look.
Look.
Everybody want a very wide hip or a very large
Mhm.
bottom or whatever. And
Especially,
you can't be like this and have that.
yeah.
So, yeah, so people are choosing to be heavier.
There, that is true, and especially you find that, especially with the younger population, because I can remember I was doing a presentation recently to some youth, right, who are training to be ambassadors, and I was presenting, and there was a slide that, listen, we know that one of the challenges, especially for youth, once you get to a stage like especially high school, all right, everybody's trying to live up to maintain a figure that is appealing to others, right? So you find that they eating excessively certain things, like the female, just because they want to reach a certain figure, or physique, to look attractive or appealing to friends, or other males that they like, or you find some of them that they starve themselves, because
Right.
you have that aspect too, that say, all right, we know that in Jamaica, people, that's the first thing as I see you, I mean, oh, you're so big and fat, or you put on weight, man, and you think that, all right, it's not a good look, so I'm going to, you start starving yourself because you want to trim down. So no. So young folks, or everybody in general, you don't eat, to please, others. I mean, you're doing it for yourself, for your own health and your wellness. All right.
Absolutely. Benita is asking another question, and it's something that we didn't really touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Alternative medicine. But some people don't want to go,
To the doctors, to the
even the men, they may not want to take the medication because it affects them physically.
mm-hmm.
So they want to do alternative medicine, or drink this bush or that bush. What is the position on Heart Foundation? Denise is saying, I noticed that I tried the the Diviner tea bag, and realized that my diabetes went down. The blurriness was not there. Do you think it can pose trouble in the long run?
All right, so with a lot of these, so nothing is wrong with taking like a holistic approach. So you're going back to your roots, back to natural, right? And using, what God provided us on this earth, that are, that is natural, too. So nothing is wrong, but as I say, moderation is key. And then if you just have to be mindful of what is being put. So I can't say I'm familiar with that brand tea bag, but as I said, I mean, you have to just be mindful of what is put in it, what are the ingredients, because most of these, they might do a mixture of 3 or 4 different herbs, but then one out of the 4 might have certain side effects that you're not aware of, and it might have implications in the long run. So you just have to look. As I say, there's nothing wrong with a holistic approach, because we encourage you to use your fresh fruits and vegetables to help in your lifestyle changes or dietary changes. And people who work with their holistic nutritionists or holistic professionals, and they, I mean, I can say yes, it will work for you, but it's just that, as I say, you have to be mindful that some of these things that are marketed as well, or the claims, right? Because you never know what are the long-term side effects. So I'm not deterring you, but just to say, just still be cautious, take precautionary measures. And then especially with in Jamaica we say, the bush tea is one thing that we learned in clinical, nutrition, is that you have to be careful because, your liver, you don't want to damage or excessively work the liver, because remember, the liver is that organ that really works to help filter your bloodstream, and it's very vital. I would say, sometimes I say, like, it's second to your heart, even though you need just a little chunk of it to survive. But you'd have to be careful because they can have, detrimental effects to your liver. So you just want to just be mindful. So nothing is wrong with a holistic approach, right? You just make sure you work with somebody who is well versed in that area and know, and they can look and say, all right, I know that all of these, I know that this won't have any negative side effects, and what are, the implications of this, and work with them and they will guide you.
And not only that, keep on checking your numbers.
Numbers, exactly.
Let's say you want to come off the medication for whatever reason, you going to the natural route.
You still have
at
to do
the
a
same
check.
time, check your numbers. Is it going up? Is it coming down? Check
No.
it regularly, so that if it's not working, you remember that you still have the option of mainstream medication.
That is
if you want, right, but you need to be checking your numbers.
And I like how you touch on that, because yes, even like even if it's not just diabetes, when people use holistic medicine to treat other conditions, you still find that, hey, whoever they're working with, the holistic specialist still sends them back to the lab or back to a practitioner to say, hey, do this test to confirm that
Right.
the ultimate goal is achieved. So yes, at some point you still have to check your numbers to ensure that, hey, whatever target you're aiming for, it is being accomplished.
Yes, and I just want to reiterate: if you do not do it by yourself, why I don't normally go the full route of the alternative medicine, because it takes extreme discipline.
A lot of
You have to
dedication.
be consistent, and because remember now, food works not as quickly as medication. So you would have to definitely manage your intake, manage your exercise, and then manage and be consistent with whatever. Because a lot of those herbs and the foods and everything, they work.
Yes.
They work over a period of time and after being consistent. That's what people don't understand. They just hear alternative medicine because this kind of medication can do this and
do this,
but they don't understand the time frame. And remember also, as you pointed out earlier, with someone that is using like insulin, remember it is a dysfunction of the kidney or the liver?
The pancreas.
Sorry, the pancreas. And so remember, it's how the pancreas processes.
Exactly.
So you not doing certain things may not necessarily fix anything, because you have to manage the fact that the pancreas
is not working as though it's supposed to. Yes.
Absolutely. So you need to know what the issue is before you actually go on these health trips. Because because I try, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I wanted to come off my cholesterol medication and my hypertension. So the doctor said, all right, I give you 6 months. Change how you eat, increase your diet. Increase your exercise, and just manage, diarize all that you eat. It's not easy.
It takes a whole, as I said, dedication, discipline.
I know we tend to have a habit. Let me just treat myself. Right? Let me just treat myself to this, or let me just treat myself to that. Or for whatever reason you don't feel like exercising this week. It requires extreme discipline.
And you find that if you go off track at least one point, you find that it just going.
I have a girlfriend who is battling breast cancer, and she's vegan, and it keeps on recurring. And she says, really and truly, if she even think about eating otherwise from how she's eating
Eating.
is pure war in our body. But people don't understand that when you say you're going the health, the naturopathic route,
Takes a whole
naturopathic route requires discipline.
discipline.
This discipline, consistency. You have to have someone who knows
Knows what.
about the food and all of those things and how it works on the body. You have to have somebody who is extremely knowledgeable. You don't just do it with any and anybody.
Body, exactly.
So you have to be extremely careful where that is concerned. I must say that because a lot of persons go that route and get themselves in trouble. Some do it and they are very successful
That's full,
because of the level of discipline that they apply. And of course, work closely with your doctor.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, folks, it's been an awesome hour and 25 minutes. Can you believe it? There is just.
I mean,
so
it's just that diabetes. Like, there's so much to discuss. There's so much linked to it. So yes, it will. I mean, and I'm pretty sure there's more that we might have not even covered. But guess what? I mean, information is available. I mean, as I said, I mean, you can do research for yourself, but make sure you use credible sources. So if it's diabetes, diabetes association, or American Heart Association, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, if they have information and you read up for yourself, you can understand it. I mean, I'm pretty sure any doctor or nurse will take the time out to say, all right, let me try explain it to you and break it down for you to understand. All right.
Do you have a number for the Heart Foundation?
Okay, sure. So we have a wealth of numbers, and I can't say I always remember them off the top of my head. I remember that our main line, for the project, it's 876-960-8293. Otherwise, we have 926-4378. So that's 926-4378 or 926-6492. Or if you want to go the email route, you can send an email to info@heartfoundationja.org. And I mean, social media as well. So if you want to do any sort of screening, training, or want to reach out to us for advocacy or outreach activities, you can also send an email to jm@gmail.com, or go on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and send us a direct message, and we will respond. So I'll repeat the handle.
Do you have a facility where if we wanted someone to come into our organization to speak to people on a healthy lifestyle, you offer that service?
Yes, we actually do. So I mean, it goes hand in. So both with our global health advocacy project, we do that, and with on the Heart Foundation way, where it's if it's medical, or regular marketing of services and stuff. So we do. So we are open to coming into, as I say, whether it's a corporate entity, a community-based organization, in the schools, because we do work with with a number of.
You did say you have a mobile unit.
Yes, so we do have a mobile unit. So if we're able to come and do mobile screening, then yes, we're able to come in and do deliver health promotion and health education for to educate the public, on ways to improve their health and well-being.
Well, Rosanna Pike, thank you so much for joining Boss Lady Live. My friends on Facebook and YouTube, we thank you wholeheartedly, for disseminating. I mean, this is really a wealth of information, and we want to encourage everybody out there to get screened. This month is Diabetes Awareness Month. I mean, we have to take it a step at a time, but the first step is to be screened.
So you can,
whether you have any signs or symptoms, you go and get screened. You never know.
No, exactly.
There's always a fluke, right? That you don't have the signs or the symptoms, and you could be pre-diabetic. Because some
Exactly.
people are
They
pre-diabetic.
don't even know.
All it would require, instead of going
Just
on
a simple
medication,
test.
is a shift
Shift.
of how you eat or exercise. So
You
the
know.
good thing, the best thing is to not get it.
Exactly.
That is the best thing. Precaution. So go out and get screened. Heart Foundation is there. They are quite reasonable, right? And they open. I didn't even know they open on Saturdays. So they're
Yes.
open from Monday to Saturday. Open
Right.
every
So
day from 8.
Saturdays are, I mean, the days will vary, and as I say, you just keep following us to see when we put out when
On
we're
social
open
media.
on a Saturday. But we do
Yes.
open on Saturdays. Otherwise, Monday to Friday we open as early as 8 a.m. Up to a Thursday we're open till 4 p.m. and on a Friday we're open until 3 p.m. So just come in, feel free to walk in, make an appointment, or to screen. I mean, you don't need an appointment, just walk in and we'll, do that. We have specials for Diabetes Awareness Month because we know that it can be burdensome on the pocket. So just come on down and enjoy, the benefits. And if you can afford to become a member, do so because it will benefit you in
What's the
the
cost of membership?
So membership, if you're older than 65 years old, it is, so 65 and older, it's $1,000. Persons under 65 years is just $1,500. So 1,500 Jamaican dollars.
For
And
the
I'm
year, people.
Yes,
For the
for the
year.
year. And
You
guess
get
what? It gives you access to a
discount.
whole lot of benefits. So discount at the pharmacy, discount on ECG tests. That's for your heart. You can use at the biomedical lab. A whole lot. It's a whole lot of benefits. So it's benefiting you and it's helping you to. I mean, when we say know your numbers, you can just come in, use a membership card, and access the benefits, so you know where you stand.
Yes, absolutely. So with that said, have a wonderful week coming up. I thank you again, all my friends online, Donna, Roy, Venice, Barbara, Anika, and also Anika, Dolores. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope we answered your questions to
To help you
help
understand and apply the
you
knowledge,
to understand more about diabetes.
diabetes.
And if we didn't cover everything, you can always go down or call the Heart Foundation and get all your information. Please go out, get tested. Also, please remember, COVID still a keep.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful, practice social distancing.
Distancing, wear
Remember
your
to wear
mask.
your mask, wash your hands, and just keep safe. Although the everyday curfew kind of ease up a little bit, it's not a green card to just
You're
go
not a
out.
free pass too.
It's not a green card to just go out and just have all the fun in the world. So please be careful, stay safe. Have a good night. Have a good week. God bless. See you next week. I don't have a guest yet, but as usual, I always bring you the best of the best.
So always have something in store.
Absolutely. So I'll see you next week at 8 p.m. Jamaica time. All the best. See you next week. Thanks again, Rosanna. It was my
It was
pleasure.
a pleasure.
Okay, take care.
More than half of us agree it takes too much time to understand the nutrition facts panel, but we can quickly understand that 80% of deaths in Jamaica are caused by non-communicable diseases. Without knowing, we consume excess foods high in sugar, fats, and sodium, which can lead to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. Especially now, we need warning labels on the front of our food packages to easily identify unhealthy foods. We support front of package warning labels. We're on the side of health. Join us. Give us octagonal, high in front of package warning labels. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.